Okay.
Start the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Remind everyone of our rise to the occasion, and we will start the agenda. We have a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor state aye.
Aye.
Communications to the board
Nope. None tonight.
for communication.
Nope.
We all should have had a chance to look at the consent items. Is there any information to present, additional information, plus we have additional bills? Any other conversations on the consent items?
Everything's routine for our revenues and expenses. October is a month where we receive a larger chunk of revenues typically. So some of those balance out always after the month of October.
Okay. Is there a motion to approve the consent items?
I'll make a motion.
Approved by Laney. Is there a second to the motion?
I will second.
Second made. All those approved state aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. And carried. Mr. Carter.
Yep. In my report, I'm going to, look a little bit at our financial review as Lisa has finalized our certified annual report, our CAR at the end of the year. There's always a few things that continue to roll in, special ed expenditures, but I think we've wrapped that up. A couple of financial indicators that I'll use. I'll start with solvency. And solvency ratio is the calculation that's used to assess the financial health of a school district, and it measures the relationship between uncommitted fund balances to revenues as a percentage. So basically the amount of cash you have in comparison to what your revenues are for the year, and that equals your solvency. And this is just a snapshot, a point-in-time measurement of what our actual cash is. And the only way to impact solvency is by increasing revenues or decreasing expenditures. 15% solvency is considered excellent, 5% is considered good. We ended the FY25 with a 12.78% solvency. We are predicting we'll end this year with a 10.35% solvency. So even though we know we're going to deficit spend, which we've known in this year, FY26, we would, our solvency still stays, in the almost excellent category. So we're still in really good shape. The graph that I created, that then builds it out to FY27, FY28, and 29, which the lowest solvency that we would have is after this fiscal year. Now that does include budget adjustments that we've discussed that are part of our plan in executing those. So not doing that would hurt our solvency and would hurt our fund balance and our budget moving forward. The second indicator is the unspent authorized budget. I usually refer to that as unspent balance. This one's harder to understand because it's not just cash, as solvency is measuring your cash versus your revenues. This is the amount of unused district general fund capacity, kind of like credit card limit, to spend on behalf of the students, which creates your spending authority. So we have spending authority that exceeds the amount of money we bring in, and that's part of our authority. And we're able to do that because of fund balances and cash that we have. So the unspent budget authority, a minimum of 10 to 15% and not to exceed 25. There's districts that have it certainly over 40. maybe even 50 and some, yeah, there's some really big numbers out there. I would say philosophically, the higher that number is, the less dollars you're spending on kids. So, staying in those guidelines of 15 to 25%, I think is healthy for your district, and it also means you're spending your dollars where they're intended to be and where they're allocated to be. So we ended FY '25 with a 24.7% unspent balance. That's right where we want to be. And we're predicting we'll end FY '26 with a 23.6. So even though we're going to deficit spend, which we know we are, still that unspent balance stays where it is. And you see as we project out, we are 25 or 26% for the next 4 years. Again, that's anticipating we execute the adjustments that we need to within our budget that involves early retirement. Third piece, certified enrollment, which is that's what drives everything in our budget and our funding. We continue to clean it up. The 15th is when it's actually certified, but we have it. We know where it's at. The total number of school-aged kids is down from 1446 to 1419. 27, 25, something like that is what we are down, which again, we anticipated. We've built everything to be down 30 students, so we're in line with what we thought. You can take a look at those numbers over the past 6 years. Again, though, reorganization happened right here, so you really should draw a line right there to see the difference between certified in 2022 and 2023. Open roll in also changes at that time because we had students who lived in the Laverne district who open enrolled in, then they became residents. So some of these 35 here is a trade-off to certified, is what happened when we did that.
We watch the trend of open enrollment out.
We do.
I don't know if there's a lot we can do, but
Yeah,
this looks like it's upward.
It is upward. It's almost entirely from the northeast part of our district. Our largest open enroll out is to the North Iowa district. You remember last year in this discussion, I said that will be an interesting number to monitor to see if that grows a lot. They're in a 4-day school week. It grew 2. Although of their, I think 50 students we have open enrolled out to that district, maybe 35 are in grades K1, 2. So they're all young students who never went to school here, and they're probably 25 miles away. IASB convention, BoardCon, as it's being rebranded in its name this year, is November 20th with the delegate assembly on November 18th. Keynote speakers Thomas Murray and Ann Marie Anderson. Great speakers. I've heard Thomas Murray speak a couple times, read some of his stuff. I think he'll be really good. And the general session will close with an open meetings and public training that which is a new legislation, that a requirement for board members. So great to have everyone there. If we could have everyone there on the 19th, we could probably get together and eat supper that night. Convention on the 19th would be fantastic if we could all arrive. I know Lainey completed the open meeting and public training, but
You got in, huh?
she did get in.
I did too.
Did you get in?
Yeah,
Okay.
Did you get your job form the next day?
my job form?
Job. They sent a little thing out the next day that,
I logged
wasn't
in and I
able to
clicked
get in.
that I was there.
I would
so-
see that you were there.
So you probably did. I know Andrea, they had a lot of technical problems that day. and-
Well, it said it was full,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
they must have been maxed out.
Did you give up?
Cause they
Yeah, I
let
tried
people-
like
Because they
3
let-
times.
They figured it out. Zoom had limited them to 100, and then about 15 minutes in, they figured it out.
Oh, yeah, no,
Well, I
then I
was
was
gone by
logged
then
on.
too.
I got an email that said they were going to, because of that, they're going to have another one, I think.
Yeah, so there's a couple options that are coming up. The final session of BoardCon is one. IASB also created a on-demand one, so a virtual one that you can log into. IASB's is for schools. It's just for schools. The one that you guys attended was open meetings in general, so not just for schools, but I think that would be a valuable one to attend if you're able.
The convention, is there a certain point where, Lisa, we need to get signed in so we get a better rate, or is it?
I
pretty
think we
much the
have the
same?
rooms. Is
I
that?
have the rooms, but I
But
don't,
as far as registration fees,
registration's not a different cost
Okay.
unless you can, so that's where
the cost comes in.
Yeah.
Okay.
So let us know as soon as possible, and we'll get those registered. Hopefully we have everyone there.
All right, sounds great. Yes, we are trying to shoot for everyone to be there as much as we can this year, and even the night before. Any questions for Joe? All right, move on then to, it looks like administrative reports.
Yeah, Mrs.
Doesn't list any, but I think we have one.
We do.
At least, yeah, it just doesn't list anything.
Mrs. Eischen is going
Yeah,
to
I
talk
thought we
to
had.
us about a couple different things. Iowa School Performance Profile, and some grade level goals that we have in the district.
Talk a little bit about some beginning of the year data. Performance profile, and Mr. Carter's maybe shared just a little bit of this with you. It's kind of branded as Iowa's report card, is sometimes what it's referred to. It went under a revamp last year, and then kind of came back out as these 5 bullets to make sure that there were some equitable ways to do this across the state. So you can see those listed up there. Iowa's accountability system really wants to be consistent, reliable, fair, all the way if you're a big district, a small district, rural, urban, all of the above. So they kind of found the ways to be able to do that as best they can. It's intended to support schools in your continuous improvement. It's not necessarily giving you a list of things to fix. It's giving you kind of a range to say, hey, here's some things you might want to go take a look at to just kind of emulate that model of continuous improvement. It does set some kind of high expectations for all students. So it's kind of set it in a way where we're not really lowering a bar, but we want to continue to have high expectations for students. Be easily understood by families, educators, communities, and taxpayers. This is the one that, well, sometimes people can understand it. It is better than the first round of it. So now when we look at points, they're straight out of 100 points, and that's much easier for all of us to understand, to see that. But the other part to that bullet is also to be able to disaggregate data, to look at subgroups too, which is really important and should be important in all districts. And then to incentivize evidence-based practices. So if you are engaging in evidence-based practices, if you're doing what's good for kids, you're going to see that reflected on your report card. So just kind of a little gist of it. So I'm going to start with just a couple things that I think are interesting for you guys in your positions to just know a little bit about some things that happened across the state in overall increases, and it should feel pretty good. The first box there is, as a whole state, there was an overall increase in score and proficiency rates. So last year on the profile, the average point total for all of the districts was 60.95. This year was 63.28. So a pretty good increase of all of the schools. So everybody's kind of digging in and doing some stuff across the state. And then the percent of schools in the top 3 ratings, which just in a moment we'll look at kind of how those ratings go. In the top 3 of them, in 2024, there was only 45.8% of schools were in those top 3 ratings. Now we're at 55.7, so more than half. So kind of another big jump there that some schools really are doing some great things across the state. Comprehensive schools, there's always gonna be 35 schools, give or take, because it's the lowest 5%. It has to be the lowest 5%, so that just always comes out to be 35. But they shared some good statistics with us that 32 of those 35 schools increased their point totals, so they were doing some good stuff. And 8 of those schools actually increased 10 points. So even those schools that were low are digging in They're doing some things, and that's what the system was intended to do. And then targeted schools, which there's much more targeted schools, because if you have one subgroup, any subgroup, that has kind of a lower number, that's considered targeted. So in this school year, 136 of the 377 previously targeted schools exited their status. So a bunch of them kind of got off that list, in a way to say that, and then the total numbers of them dropped from 377 to 338. So a kind of a little bit of a drop in those as well. So I think those are good to see that there's some movement across the whole state. What this looks like for us here at Algona, this is the score card, I guess you'd say, for high school. So we are in the commendable range. You can see in green, that is the point total that the high school got. If you really care to remember, last year I took you through a little bit of how we get that point total, so you can certainly refer back to that if you want to, but when all of the data was run, our point total was 562.38. So we were in the commendable range, but because we still had one subgroup of our IEP students kind of not hit that mark, we got dropped one. So on paper, we're called acceptable, but our score is actually in the commendable range. And then if you look up at the top, our last year's score at the high school was 416.57. That was an increase of almost 41 points. A lot of those things came from some things in the work-based learning, that as we learned more, we made some changes too, but some overall good things there as well. So big increase in scores there, but again, in commendable, on paper, it tells us acceptable. And then middle school and elementary, I have them on the same one, not with the high school, because the high school has way more categories that they get scored on. The middle school and the elementaries get scored on the same thing. So you can see middle school still continues to have a really high score, 474.54. It's down just a tish from last year, and we're going to see that they have a subgroup that we want to take a peek at some things too. But if Mr. Carter, you go look, they're not too far away from the 487.19. That would get them up to that next range of high performing. So they're really kind of teetering an edge on some things there. So that's really good, and it will be a good thing to continue to look forward to the future. Again, down just a tish this year, and then they are similar to the high school. We had one subgroup there that kind of flagged a little bit for us to take a look at. So on paper, we're acceptable, but we're in that commendable range for points. And then Lucia Wallace, also the elementary. Lucia Wallace is our only elementary that gets scored because they're the only ones that have kids who take the assessment, but they are in that commendable range as well. They did not have one of those status drops, so you can see what they are is what they are. And they had a little increase in points too from last year, up about 17 points. So overall, as a district, we did quite well on some things of that. So even though middle school looks like a little drop, small, but we kind of see some patterns why.
So if you look at the performance profile, it'll say Lucia Wallace, Bryant Elementary, and Bertha Godfrey are all commendable, even though really the only one being scored is Lucia Wallace. The other two take on the whatever rating they have.
Whatever Lucia Wallace is, all the rest of them are. So I kind of showed you some of the things across the state that were kind of highlights. These are some Algona specific highlights. Lots of really good things to celebrate on there. Our subgroup of ELL, our English Language Learner Growth, as a whole district is at 70.59. The state average is only 58. So we're quite above in that category. Our percent proficient in science is quite above what the state average is, and the science assessment is given in grades 5, 8, and 10 is where we get that data from. The percent proficient in math is up. We're above the state average. Same as in ELA, we're above the state average. It's not as big as a couple of those other bullets, but we're still above. The chronic absenteeism rate is really one to celebrate. This is one of those ones that lower is better. All of our other ones, usually higher is better, but chronic absenteeism, lower is better. Ours is at, as a district, is at 9.82, and the state average is 15.81. And I don't 100% remember offhand, but I want to say last year, ours was close to like 20, and so.
2 years ago, we were 22.
Yeah, so that's.
We went from 22 to 9 and
Cut in half, you know, in a small amount of time there. The post-readiness, that is only a score at the high school. The specific category of our students who take classes for college credit is way above the state average. We're at 84.11. State average is only at 70.03. So we have lots of really great opportunities for our students at the high school level towards that post-secondary readiness kind of score. And then two other ones I think to note, our participation rate, which might seem kind of like, oh, okay, great, so kids take the test. Well, kids taking the test is sometimes a hard thing to do, you know, over the years, especially coming back from COVID. And they increased in every single one of our subgroups. And I think that that's also related to some of that absenteeism. When kids are here, they do the work and they feel good about doing the work. So I think we see a nice correlation there. And then another one on attendance would be our district attendance growth. It almost doubled in every single subgroup, meaning the growth that we made with students who had been absent, who aren't now, was way different. So those are some really great things for us to kind of celebrate and kind of jump off of from there. Now, one last thing to kind of remember is this is some big data. This is state data. So we get a lot of our data that fills that report card from the Iowa assessment that we give in every April. And that's grades 3 through 11. And that's great, but that happens in like a week's time in April. So we want to also think about what we look at a little bit more when we give our universal screening assessments, because those kind of predict how well students are going to do on those tests. We give those 3 times a year and look at that data. But really, we make day-to-day goals for what we're really doing on a day-to-day basis. That's going to impact all of those other things that you saw too. So I just wanted to share a few of those, and this next screen is going to look like a lot of words, I know, but kind of talk through it. These are some examples of some goals that some of our grades have. This one's a kindergarten and first grade goal, but they really wanted to increase how many of their kids were able to be proficient on some of our foundational reading things, and so they made a goal, but more importantly, they really thought about some actions they want to take. They kind of want to dig into what are those early foundational skills? What do we do when kids don't have them? Where do we see it in our core instruction? So just kind of an example of how we go from big to little. And kindergarten and first grade don't take the test, but boy, we build a lot of skills so that they're ready to go and have a good foundation when they do get to that kind of test-taking age. This is an example of a second grade goal. They kind of wanted to focus a little bit more on math, and so they actually looked at a couple different things that they wanted to see increase. Some of their screeners that they give 3 times a year, but then also some of their local assessments that they give. And they had some really good thoughts on, well, what data sources do we even have, and what do we want to look at for materials when we want to respond to needs? So good conversations with them. They're continuing to work on that. 3rd and 4th grade, they also kind of want to dig a little bit more into math, specifically some of those fluency things and how to make sure kids are fluent and flexible with their thinking in math, because we know that when they are at kind of a basic fact level, that'll let them do harder math. That will let them be more flexible in their thinking as they kind of increase through the years. High school kind of has one on kind of a maintenance Monday thing that they're doing, but some ways to maintain and have kids grow their skills in ELA and math. They have some things they're doing to have some structures in place to let all kids kind of have the opportunity to maintain some of their skills. And then the last box, since middle school and high school do have that designation, they're kind of working on some goals. They're in the process of going through some things to make some kind of more day-to-day goals that might lead to some increases that we'll see on the bigger tests that feed into that profile. So wanted to just kind of show you what that means on a day-to-day basis, because of course, when we give those tests in April, that's not going to make much changes from then, but it's what we do now
And this
to
is
set
the
ourselves
this is
up.
the work that's important to achieve what we do in April and what to create the bigger picture of the Iowa School Performance Profile. It's the daily goals, and you can see these are a lot more specific. This goal right here for third grade is to increase the number of kids who are fluent within 10 on multiplication. That's a lot different goal than increasing math scores, right? This is what they've found as a specific goal, that by increasing this, our math scores will then look different in
Yep.
theory. So these are a lot more detailed, and really this is the work that's being done on a day-to-day basis.
Yes, it is.
Who's involved in creating those goals?
Yeah, so all the teams are administrators at those buildings. Depends on kind of the realm of, when you get to high school, there's a lot more of them, so they kind of work in some groups or pods, towards some things as well. So kind of a array of people.
So
At
those
each grade
teams,
level.
talk about that third grade, for example. What are the teams that we would have?
Yep, so all the grade level teachers of third grade, their instructional coach, the administrator from the building. I took them through the process to create the goals, and then when they have their kind of weekly meeting, sometimes they dig into some of these things. Sometimes there's some other things to do. It might also sometimes involve special education or the interventionist, if it's one where we want to know more about how are kids progressing in other places that we don't always see them, so we can kind of close an achievement gap on that. So if a goal lends itself to that they would be involved in that, and we work pretty hard to find ways to get them available to collaborate with each other. That's always the tricky part from it, but that's kind of how it looks in some of those ways. There'll be some grade level things. It'll probably be some content related things at the middle school as they start to look at some of their things from the ISPP. So a variety of things. There you go.
One quick question,
yeah.
So and this is really good, and love seeing some of our numbers go up like elementary. With the high school and middle school, where if I'm following, our scores are up there,
Mhm.
but we drop status-wise,
Yep.
and you had mentioned initially, I think it was high school IEP
Yep.
related, so can you speak a little bit more to some of the factors that are going into that,
Yeah.
just so we understand?
So when all of those points get run, so when the high school had a point total of 4, 5, whatever that number was, then the state runs that exact same matrix for every subgroup. So for us in Algona, that would be students on an IEP, free and reduced lunch. We are now to the point where we have enough students that English language learners is enough of a subgroup. Our white students and our, most of the time Hispanic is kind of our 5 subgroups that can be ran. So they run that exact same report for each one of those subgroups, just with that population in mind. And then when those points get back, if that number is below the line that was created from the lowest percent of those comprehensive schools, those 35 schools that were the lowest, they kind of set the bar for anybody that falls underneath it. So in the middle school and high school case, when they ran those numbers for just the IEP students, those numbers were a little bit lower, which is then a flag for us to say, we might want to dig in and see why. Where is it? Because they don't really tell you why, and that's kind of the purpose, because sometimes they might not know, but when we ran the numbers, it didn't meet where we wanted it to be. So now it's our job to kind of go dig into that and see, is it literacy? Is it math? Is it growth in attendance? Is it, what are some of those things that we might want to take a peek at for those? So that's kind of how you get that status.
So
Gotcha.
that process, they'll say you are targeted for IEP students. They don't say for reading proficiency, math proficiency. You got to dig in and figure that out, which I think that's interesting that they don't tell you. But, we certainly believe it's our proficiencies with our IEP students.
And
It's
growth.
not- And not
Hard to
growing,
grow.
right,
Mhm.
right. And so that's the work that they're digging into and figuring out.
How do we do that?
Yep.
And who needs to all be involved, and do we need to get some learning to our people and those kinds of things, so.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you, Ms. Dyson. All right, we'll move on then to old business. I see we're looking to approve second readings of board policies.
Second readings of board policies, the first one's 211 is the open minutes, so there's some updated language to include that board member training for those open meetings has to take place. There is some other updated language, but no changes in policy, just updated to match the IASB recommendations. So we recommend those changes and for those second readings of those 200 series.
Okay. Anybody have any questions? Hearing none, we need a motion then for approval.
So moved.
Thanks, Andrea. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Thanks, Todd. We have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Second reading's approved. There's some first readings to look at.
Yep, first readings, we are entering into the 300 series. See, the first one, superintendent qualifications, recruitment and appointment. You know, that is a board policy that we have. No changes to that. No, again, changes that would impact policy. There is some language things that we are cleaning up, but this is just a first reading of the 300 series and a chance for you to start to look through those. And some updated changes due to legislation is at the bottom, which takes us into anywhere from 208 all the way up to the 500. These are all changes that have to take place due to legislation changes from last session.
Okay. Please take a chance to look at those.
Some examples of those for emergency plans and drills. Those are required to have those drills. That's a process we've already done, but it is now board policy to include those things. Background check rules defined in the equal opportunity employment policy. A few examples. Yep.
Looks
Yep.
like plenty to look at before next month. Okay, we'll move on to allowable growth for special requests, special ed.
We got a couple things that we annually do. One of them is to approve an allowable growth request for special education, and a district may request that allowable growth for a negative special ed balance for the current school year. It's the supplemental aid payments calculated by the Department of Management after all special ed balances have been finalized. So we need to approve the request for allowable growth for special ed deficit. Not cash, but this is when we talked about a UAB, unspent authorized budget. This is one of those things that adds to your authority, is approving this allowable growth. Our special ed deficit last year was that 1.6 million number.
This is something we've done annually. As Joe said, it's a spending authority.
It's authority, yeah.
Do we have any questions? Hearing none, then we need a motion to approve the allowable growth request.
Make a motion to approve the allowable growth for special ed deficit spending.
Thank you, Tom. Do we have a second?
Second.
Thanks. Brent, any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Allowable growth approved. And we're looking at another allowable growth for the limited English proficiency.
Yep, and this application is for dollars spent in excess of funding for limited English proficiency. So in our certified enrollment, we have a limited English proficiency weighting of an additional 17 students. That does not cover all of our expenses for our ELL staff. So the difference is what we request in the amount of $44,000. That number is down significantly from last year, where we were almost 90,000, I believe, last year. The reasons for that is our number of students increases, so the weighting and the amount of funding we get increases, which decreases that difference.
And is this just authority also?
Yes.
Yeah. All right. Any questions? All right, we need a motion then for approval. Thanks, Todd. Do we have a second?
Second.
Thanks, Lanny. We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? LEP allowable growth approved. Out of state trip.
Our FFA plans to attend the National FFA Convention in Indianapolis as they typically do, and as they have in the past years, they would leave October 28th and return October 31st. 7 students plan to ride the charter bus with North Iowa, North Union, and Remsen St. Mary's students. Typically, when our students return, they come to the board and kind of present on some of their learnings, which is always fantastic, and look
Yep.
forward to that.
Definitely look forward to that next month, possibly. Need a motion then to approve the out-of-state trip.
Make a motion to approve the out-of-state FFA trip.
Thanks. Andrew, do you have a second?
I will second.
Thanks, Brent. We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Out-of-state trip approved. Approve the field house change order.
Yeah, I believe this will be our last order of business involving our field house. I shouldn't say that, right? But we do believe it is. We have went through substantial completion walkthrough on the wrestling room and weight room, on the interior and on the exterior. There are 3 separate lists, and from those lists create punch lists of small items to complete, which we are really at to some very small items. This change order is actually a settlement agreement. If you remember back to over a year ago, there was a change order issued involving the risk category of the building, which is the strength of the steel of the building. The specs for the project called for a category 3. Kingland only prepared in their bid for a category 2. Now, Algona Schools certainly is not responsible for all of that additional cost. The cost that we are responsible for involves that we do have a different structure, right? We do have a building and a product that's different. That's the part that we're responsible for. Atura Architecture and Kingland are responsible for the mistake in the process. So this is a settlement that we worked together to come through, really through the summer, and we're finally resolving it. If you remember, we went to mediation. Rodney and Jay both attended mediation with me around a year ago. There was not a resolution that came from mediation. We worked on our own to come up with this. So of the total identified cost of $93,000, now going to pay $17,000 of that. And for the submitted cost of the concrete foundation repair of $69,000, we pay $20,000. So we're paying about $39,000 of the $150,000 change order. The second part to the motion or the agenda item is we also have to approve 2 deductions, 2 credits, celebration. PR 64 is a deduct of $1,300 for a site railing that was not needed but was called in the plans, and PR 65 is a deduct of $750 for an electrical floor box that was not installed.
Seems like the deductions aren't near as high as.
Didn't quite equal out, did it?
I bring that up to him, Todd. These aren't the
Do
same.
these get, well, if we agree to, the
Settlement?
settlement, does it get paid right away, or do we wait till they get the punch list done?
This will get paid right away,
Okay.
because we have retainage.
Okay.
That's part of the project that still is held back. That's really what we have left until final completion.
Do they have dates, like, posted for the punch list to be complete? Have they said anything?
I don't think they have dates. Really, the interior punch list probably is complete. There's a few exterior ones that we're finishing up. Electricians were here today doing some of that. We're probably very close to that.
Motion to approve change orders.
I'll second. Thanks, Brett. Thanks, Jay. We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Change orders approved. Okay, keep moving on here. Early retirement program.
2 years ago, a motion was made by that board with the intent of having an early retirement program that year, and the intent of having it for 3 additional years, so 4 total. We've completed 2 of those total. We're in year 3. To be eligible for the program that I have attached and that I'll recommend, a teacher must be 55 years old by June 30th, 2026, have 12 years of service in the district. That is different, and I think it will involve some discussion from all of us. Last year, that was 15 years of service. This year, it's 12. In 2019, our first early retirement program that we put together, we had 15 years of service. In 2020, we moved it to 12. That changed, and in this case, I would make that recommendation to simply capture more people. There's more eligible. Lisa and I went through to double check that. We believe 2 more people in district would become eligible for that. I don't know if they both would apply for early retirement or not. But in the state that we're in, where savings is vital, I think increasing what we could capture is important. Now, I do think there's more discussion to be had on that, but I'll finish what the program is first. The benefit would also be 1% of the staff members' last year's salary multiplied by their years of service, capped at 25. So if you worked in the district 25 years, that would be 25% of your previous year's salary. We'd also pay out $25 for each unused sick day and provide 5 years of health insurance. All of those things are the same. The benefit is the same. The difference is the years of service. Certainly, that recommendation does not come from me to leave someone out or intentionally leave someone out. That recommendation strictly comes from the point of creating more savings. But I think there, rightfully so, is a concern that if we do that, where there are people who made decisions to retire that because they didn't believe they could get to the 15 years, for example. And I think that is a true concern to have. So I think discussion to be had on whether that's best to move it to 12 years of service, or if we're more comfortable keeping it at 15 as it was the previous 2 years.
I'll make it just a mention. I know Todd just talked to me about a concern he has with moving it, but I did receive an email this afternoon. I don't know if all of you did, but Cindy Schmidt did send me an email stating that it would have been 12 years. If she thought it was going to go to 12 years, she probably would have went another year. She believes she has 11 years last year, but she wasn't going to be able to make it to 15 years. So she felt concerned that we were changing it and that she probably would have taught 1 more year if she would have known it might move to 12 years. And I know we've always said 15 years was going to be, and we had 24 eligible possibly in those.
I'll respond to that though, because we've also publicly said it's going to change. It's a fluid thing that's going to change. We're going to do it in good faith. We've never guaranteed that we're going to continue to do it every year. And it was us as a district saying, we're doing it this year in good faith. We're going to try to do it next year, but things are going to change year to year. So
I just wanted to make sure you all understood that you maybe didn't see the email because it was to me and Joe, I believe.
Yep.
And I busy this afternoon at work, and it came in late this afternoon. I didn't have a chance to forward it.
This is not a standing policy of this board.
not, which
that
is why annually we do
never-
this.
Yeah, that has
Yep.
never been let on that we're going to do it. We may not do it next year.
Yeah.
We have intention to do it, and that's our plan, but it's not in writing that we're going to.
I think a parallel to that, Brent, is, we have an intention for next year to be year 4. I'm certain there are staff members in year 5 and 6 who will become eligible. And we have not said we have an intention of having a program at that time. An early retirement program, the reality of it is the district puts it in place as a tool of savings. The teachers receive it as a benefit, but it's a tool for savings is what it is for us. My recommendation comes solely from the area of a way to increase that savings. And that's why I recommend moving it to 12 to capture more of the savings.
So can you walk us through that, Joe, what 12 versus 15 looks like on?
Yep. Like I
From
said,
savings.
I believe there's 2 more who would be eligible. I do not know if either one. This year, I do believe is different in that also, as part of this program, I recommend that we cap it at 6. I did add some language that also says, though, I could come to you in January and recommend more than 6 because of the applicants we have. We know we're not filling 5 of those. So if we're not filling 5 and there's 9 who apply, we're really filling 4 jobs, which is under that 6. And I think that's a reality. You know, we talked about adjustments to our budget. You know, that's something that we will do throughout this year is we won't fill back all of the retirees. So I wouldn't want to put the district in a position that they have to try to hire more than 6 early retirees, because that could be a challenge. But we may not fill all of those that apply this year, which is where the recommendation could be not for 6, but for whatever the number is.
By choice not fill those, or by lack of qualified people to replace?
Choice, budget adjustments, budget adjustments.
So if we were to keep it at 15, we would still meet our quota of what we needed to balance that budget in a couple of years. And then this will just help
Yeah.
a little bit more.
Yes, you know, forecasting's not an exact thing, you know, and we've walked through, you know, what that looks like for the district, that there's a number of adjustments that has to be made. Early retirement is part of that. I mean, we've always used that number in our forecast. We haven't used more than that number, but the more that we can capture in this method, it's just an easier process to balance as we want to.
And of the original list or whatever that,
Yep.
this would not bump out anybody that,
I don't believe it does, Todd, because of the scenario that we know we're not going to fill them all back this year. So where we thought only 6 would be approved this year, that certainly could be more than that. That could be the 7, 8, 9, because there's positions we very well will not fill. So I think it actually grows for this year when we know that's going to happen.
okay.
If we have that many we're paying out of management, do we feel comfortable paying out 9?
We're probably right to the edge of that.
So that's the other question.
Yep, you know, we're comfortable in this year's management budget, but, you know, we'd have to look at next year's. I don't think we'd have to increase it, you know, we drop people off also. I don't think there's a lot to drop off for next year, but we're within a few years of dropping people off that as well.
Sure.
Yeah, that's a good question, Rodney.
So Joe, if I'm understanding, if we go from 15 to 12, we captured 2 more that are eligible?
We capture 2 eligibility ones, yep,
Okay.
that's what it does.
And how many are eligible at 15? We
How
know-
many
do we know
more?
that? No, just how
Um,
many in general do we have? If we're talking between 6 and 9, I'm just curious.
I just remember when we first started talking this, we talked about there might be up to 24.
Yeah, I think
That's
there
why
was
we-
about that
That's why
on
we
the
thought
list.
6 was a good number each year if we were gonna capture 24. We
There
would-
might be about that 15 number. You know, where if you had 9 this year, 6 more next year, it's pretty close to that. You know, I think we'll capture most that are eligible in a 2-year time period.
The 2 that we'd be adding, would those be replacements or potentially ones that we aren't refilling?
One of each.
Okay.
And there's no way to retroactively compensate? I mean, just 'cause that's the thing I struggle with the most is, you know, Ed, you know, I guess I was under the impression all along, you know, that we were gonna kinda keep it the same, and so I struggled with this a little bit, but that's, I know we have to do what's best for the district, I understand that, so.
You know, Tom, I struggle with it too, because I wouldn't ever want to give the impression that we made a decision so one person didn't receive a benefit. But I also know that's not the decision that was made. And you guys know that also. This change is to create a savings for the district. And I think anytime we have these programs in place, when they go away or when they change, it impacts other people. And that's the reality of it.
You know, I mean, 5 years, 10 years, next superintendent that's here
Might not have anyone, you're right.
may not want this, may not
Yeah.
need it.
Yep.
And then people can come back and say, well, 10 years ago we did it, why aren't we doing it now? I'm 60 years old, I'm 55 years old, I'm 57 years old.
And the response for you guys would be, it's a financial tool that the district utilizes when they need to.
I just don't want it to be, it looks like a weapon if we, you know, it looks like we're targeting or, kind of like what you said, like, kind of icky, but I understand.
But there are gonna be people in, next year, they're gonna be in year 11.
Mhm.
You know, so you're gonna miss it by 1 year. So I mean, you got.
I don't think there is, that's what we looked at. In a 2-year time period, moving it to 12 would impact 2 people.
And then I guess if we, let's hypothetically, I know this is, you know, never been a discussion of this. If we move it to a 5th year, would there be anybody else in year 12, is I guess what I was
Yeah,
wondering.
I did not go to your.
You know, I mean, that was my point, is that you know, we originally said we're gonna try to shoot for 4 years. There's gonna be people just on the other side of that's gonna be missed too.
Yeah.
So-
But I think, and we
then
understood
there's
that.
nothing we can do that. I
Right,
mean,
we
yeah, I mean,
understood
it's
that
just-
going
No,
into it
yeah.
too, and trying to be
Yeah.
very transparent of, this is our plan, but it is fluid from year to year. I mean, what if we compromise here and say, again, transparently, we're gonna keep it at 15 this year, but potentially next year move it to 12? Does that, then we get to, you know, we don't maybe potentially capture 1 year, but are we still okay financially? But again, bringing transparency to it so people know exactly kind of,
Like a warning.
Yeah,
it's an option at least, not saying that we're actually
Yeah.
gonna do that next year.
Yeah,
We don't
that's
know,
what it does.
but-
It puts the savings in a different year. You know, we are forecasting a surplus next year, which we need to build that to that surplus. That's an option. Keeping it at 15 is an option, moving it to 12 is an option.
If we do that, then we're not saying an intent to offer in fiscal year '27. We're saying we will offer in '27.
But we can't do that.
No, it's an
No,
intent.
I know that. But if we word that way, would that be perceived as being offered?
I think we have to offer it in
yes.
year 4,
I
right?
think we have said there's an intent to, yeah.
Okay.
We've always said, like Dr. Owen said at the beginning, we can make motions of intent, but it's always a year-to-year thing.
Right.
My feelings are, it's not the perfect plan, and people are gonna be hurt, it's not gonna be perfect for everybody. And the big picture is, I'm trusting Joe, and I think we all do, to make the best entrance financially for the school. I mean, we know a little bit, we oversee it, but the ins and outs, I think him and Lisa have a good plan, and I'm comfortable, even though I understand how it can hurt people and how can look unfair, but that is not the intention of this board. It's purely a business, financial decision to make. I'd motion to approve the early retirement with a 12-year, like Joe has suggested for this year. And I don't know if we need to say with the intention of continuing for a 4th year, or we don't even need to do that. I mean, it's just,
Yep.
we've discussed that, so I would just
Yep.
motion to approve as is the early retirement program.
I'll second that.
Okay, we do have a motion on the end to approve the early retirement as presented with the 12 years currently, or with 12 years of teaching. Any further discussion? Okay, with this being do we want a roll call on this one, with it being, or do we'll just,
You can, I'll still put who voted. If there's no's.
if there is a no?
I
okay.
will write them down, they don't have to be a roll call.
Okay, gotcha.
Hopefully I'll hear
All
it.
right.
If I don't, you'll let me know.
Discussion, we have a motion and a second then. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, abstaining?
No.
Did we have, I just didn't know if we got everybody, that's why I asked. All right, all approved. We'll move on next to, ISD point delegate.
November 19th is the delegate assembly for the Iowa Association of School Boards. You remember back a couple weeks ago, we approved legislative priorities. So the process then at the assembly is those priorities become voted into initiatives. There's an annual meeting, you set the legislative platform, and then you convene the nominating caucus. This is November 19th at 9 a.m. Rodney has done this for the district for a number of years. What
You're
we-
so good at it.
What we typically do is appoint a delegate. We could also appoint a delegate and a backup, or we can send someone without appointment also. This is just best practice.
Well, I don't have an issue again, but if there's someone else that would like to go through the process, you're welcome to speak up.
Anybody else interested? Because I'll motion to appoint Rodney as a delegate.
I third that.
Wow, that went quick. We don't even need to have, we got a motion and a second. At this point, we'll just say all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? I will be the delegate as long as everyone elected.
We thank you for your service.
With the election year, but, all right, superintendent goals.
They're in the, I listed the goals I had last year as well as the sub-goals that I had last year. If you go down to where there's color, the first three blue goals, those are the three overarching goals that we typically have approved in the past. And these are, they align with our district goals to manage school operations, to cultivate an inclusive, caring, and supporting school community that promotes the academic success of students, and to 3, develop and support intellectually rigorous and coherent systems of curriculum and instruction and assessment. So those are the 3 overarching that we typically have had in the past. Last year, we also added some more specific sub-goals. Those involved me visiting school buildings on a regular basis and having one-on-one conversations with our staff and working to lower our chronic absentee rate. This year, 3 additional goals I would like to focus on. They start pretty wordy, and that's because they align to standards, but then they get into the meat of them at the end. One is to attend teacher, leader, and team meetings throughout the school year. Mrs. Eischen referenced some of those things. I think it's important for me to be there with those groups when they're doing the hard work, they're establishing the goals, they're reviewing data. So attending those meetings throughout the school year to help promote the academic success of each student. The second one involves chronic absenteeism, which is something we've talked a lot about through the years because it's really, really important. When kids are here, they do better. And whatever we can do to promote attendance growth, I think is important. This is specific for subgroups. Mrs. Eischen, again, she talked about subgroups. Now, we've lowered our chronic absentee rate from 22 to 9 in a couple-year time period, which is outstanding. Our people are doing a really good job in meeting families where they need support. But we have some subgroups that have not come down at the same time. For example, our English language learners chronic absentee rate is 27%, where the rest of our students is below 9. So that's something we have to find the root cause of that. Is that a communication piece? What is the reason why we're not as successful with those students' attendance rate? And I'd like that to be a goal. And the third is, we're always working with our teacher leaders. Mrs. Eischen does a lot of work with our instructional framework, which our instructional framework is, if I go into a second grade classroom or if I go into a chemistry classroom, I should see evidence of engagement. I should see evidence of planning. That was a topic we talked about today. There's different pieces to our framework. Using that framework in our teacher evaluation tool, I think, is important. Because our framework is based upon best practices, things that we know are good for kids. So making those examples and artifacts in our teachers' evaluations. And really, that goal is me working with our principals to ensure that's happening. So those are three sub-goals that I think are important and that I would like to work on through this year. But again, this is a process that involves you guys, and other things that you want or you need to see, I think are important to include also.
No, I think those are three sub-goals that work really well. So, any other discussion on that?
So I like the goals, Joe. Maybe one suggestion I would have is putting some sort of like metric.
Measurement.
Yeah. So just as an example, like the chronic absenteeism, you mentioned the subgroup.
Yeah.
Improvement by X percentage on that specific subgroup, or
I
10 to
thought,
80%
Andrew, you
of-
would say that,
Yeah, sorry.
because we've talked about that before. I think all three of those easily can have a measurement
Yeah.
to them that I can add, whether it's the number of meetings I attend, to what we plan to move that chronic absentee number to the number of evaluations that include use of the instructional framework. All of those can include measurement pieces, I think, too.
Perfect.
All right, we need a motion then to approve the superintendent goals.
Make a
Or
motion
did
to-
someone and I missed it?
I make a motion.
Did you?
Approve.
I missed.
No,
Sorry.
that's all right.
Andrea, we were second.
Superintendent goals.
I'll second. Oh,
Todd seconds it, we'll go. All right, we have a motion second, any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Goals approved. Setting the progress review dates.
Yeah, progress review dates to review the work towards all of those goals. Last year, we had 2 progress reviews throughout the year in December and April.
Yep, sure.
It's-
Motion to approve review dates in December and April.
Yep, do we have a second?
Second the motion.
Tom, we have motion and second, any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Review dates approved. Looking at open enrollment next.
Open enrollment, we have 2 open enrollment applications that both meet requirements because they're 2 virtual academies. It seems like every month I beat that drum. That will be an initiative with legislators I think should change. It has to change. I think it's bad for kids.
How many there are the virtual academies out there, do we know?
Bad because there's not much accountability.
Exactly. And here's the, I spoke with some of our legislators last week, and here's why this is bad. Oftentimes, when we start to work with a family on missing school, we will get an open enroll application to a virtual school. We do not believe we've ever had a student graduate from a virtual school. So I don't think it's what's good for kids. I don't think it's what's best for them academically. There can be kids who go to virtual schools and be very, very successful, but that is not what's happening in many cases in our district.
our virtual schools, they're public schools, are they?
Yep, there's about 4 that are
Are
accredited.
they regulated and stuff like?
Yep, they're accredited
Brick and mortar
schools.
public schools?
So
Yep,
do they
there's-
get-
22.
Did they get dinged for chronic absenteeism too?
They send them back to us.
Yeah. That's a really good question, Brett. I'm not sure. And where this impacts you guys every month, and I always bring it up, is that there are no deadlines for virtual schools, where open enrolling to a regular school district has to take place before March 1st.
So who pays these schools? Is it their tax dollars?
Yes, we do.
It comes from us.
We do.
Well, does it come from us, like,
They're resident.
Yes, they're resident school, we get the money, they bill us, we send it to them.
so it's, I mean, it's neutral, right? I mean, it's just because they're not in the district. It'd be like they're not in the district, so we don't really receive the money.
Yeah.
I mean, it's
Yeah.
just a pass-through.
Right.
I mean, it's not necessarily costing us anything, it's just,
Others,
My time.
It's a administrative time.
I would say the cost is that if they stayed in our district, I think we'd be more effective and more efficient.
yeah, no, I understand that, but it's not like,
It's not an additional expense, no.
if they weren't here, we wouldn't get the money to begin with.
Right, right.
And it's not like we have to pay it out. It's just the money comes for that kid, is tagged to that kid, right?
Yep.
So, I mean,
Yeah.
it's
But we
just,
sometimes spend money, like, I I spent money on seats for these kids to do the universal screening, and now they're gone, and that's a seat, so there's little things like that.
different
that-
administrative
Just, I
pieces.
mean,
The money just follows the kid.
10 kids is
So ultimately,
$7,000
it's tax.
that we don't have.
Yeah, almost 80.
Yeah.
Well, and to your point, if it's a proactive thing, move for the kid, whether it's out of different, or, that's planned for as opposed to a reaction of.
Right. School choice is something we have, and we have laws in place that allow it. This isn't school choice, this is escaping public schools.
Yeah,
And the accountability a lot of times.
yeah.
Well, there's nothing we can do, so I would motion to approve the ordinance.
Yes, yes.
Thanks, Brent, do we have a second?
I'll second that.
Thanks, Steve, we have a motion and a second, any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Open enrollment's approved. I do not see any
No.
resignations.
Right.
All right, we'll move on to contracts.
We have a few different contracts. Christy Roberts from middle school volleyball. If you remember back, we added some middle school volleyball positions, did not hire both of those. Mrs. Roberts is helping us out with one of our levels, so this is compensation for her doing that. Shane Meshke, volunteer middle school basketball and middle school baseball. Laurie Hansen, bus driver, special education transport. Dan Welp, JV boys basketball. Mr. Welp did have a middle school basketball contract. He is moving to our JV coach. Volunteer wrestling coaches, Tanuki, Corey Keeker, Tyler Kraft, Jordan Limbaugh, Corey Van Ort, and Jeremy Rummel. Troy Nation, Jay Bustrom, Corey Bustrom, and James Rodert, and Jacob Zabka as our new JV boys wrestling coach.
Make a motion to approve the contracts.
Thank you, Deidre. Do you have a second?
A second.
Thanks, Lonnie. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. All right, before we adjourn, just remind everybody, if you're watching or maybe see it in the future, don't forget to vote. I think early voting is October 15th. And then November 4th is voting, and so it's important to get out. We appreciate it if you would. I know myself, Jay, and Lanny are on the ballot, so we appreciate you coming out. And to remind you about the ISBA convention, I don't know if I get that out. Please talk to Lisa, and I hope we can get as many down there as possible. All right, motion for adjournment we need.
Motion to adjourn.
Thanks, Brett. We have a second.
Second?
Thanks, Andrea. We are adjourned. Thank you, everybody. Have a good night.
Lisa, you got the papers for me, what time's they're on the ballot?
For the three?
I heard they're,
Turned in on time?
Thanks for getting
heard they're
started.
looking for a new superintendent in Des Moines.
Yeah,
You know, if you want to come out of retirement for that?
I gotta come on.
I wasn't even here when he did it.
Friendly situation.
Four districts and there's like a half dozen cities.
They were
Counties that didn't
I
get it
heard
for
the
long.
mayor did.
No,
You do that.